Hi, and welcome to Filmmakers Compass Podcast, a show where we talk about movies and, well, more movies. I'm D-Man, joined by CP. And CP, how are you doing today?
D-Man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little concerned about this conversation today.
Well, here's the thing. You're not themed at all, which tells me you're not that enthused about it.
Exactly, dude.
Normally you have a hat or a shirt or some sort of indication on your end about what it is we're going to be talking about. And I know
I'm-
this is mostly an audio podcast, so for the listeners, they probably don't know what I'm talking about. But
They
I
have no
try to
idea, but you know what I'm talking about, or
I
what you're
know
talking about.
because we're recording and looking at each other. So it's a little weird that you're just wearing a plain blue t-shirt
Yeah,
and no hat.
yeah. It's almost like a boycott.
Well, here's the deal. You prefaced last week that we would be talking about the brand new Disney film Tron Ares, which had a
Surprise!
pretty exciting launch. But we're going to get to it in a little bit. There's a whole discussion around whether or not this movie is actually any good, where it ranks amongst the other Tron films. And obviously, we got to hear CP's thoughts because I'm sure he has many.
Yeah, I got a couple thoughts.
All right. Well, uh, in that case, like always, before we get into the actual discussion this week, I do want to do some shout outs. So, first up is Ivor, who said of last week's episode, great episode. I think you guys could do more episodes on the alien mythology, which that would be fun.
Yeah, we actually could do like a whole podcast about Alien Ivor.
Alien gets weird too. It
Super weird.
like all franchises that exist for so long, because this is from what 79 until present with Alien Earth just ending. I mean, they have prequels, different styles, character retcons, a lot of
Alternate
stuff.
storylines.
Yeah, it has it all. So I'd kind of be down for that. But I'm also down for Ivor's next comment, which is CP. I hate to say this, but Alien 3 is pretty good and not a complete failure. Which just sounds to me like Ivor is telling CP he's wrong.
Wow.
Which I love. That's amazing.
Ivor, why don't you stop listening to this show, man? If you don't like what I have to say, just, go home.
Yeah. That's the
Turn
best
off
part.
Spotify.
CP, don't get angry, because here's the thing. You're not wearing the appropriate clothes to Hulk out. So you're going to have to keep it in check. But he goes on to say Fincher had a problem with meddling producers. This was his first movie, and 20th Century Fox was taking a limited chance. I would love to see a director's cut without the meddling. It's kind of interesting. It would be neat given how successful Fincher's career has been overall, assuming that there really was studio meddling.
It's possible. It's possible.
I mean, unfortunately, the
But
thing that sucks is after like the Snyder cut, I feel like there's probably so many director's cuts through the years that we never got to see that it's like I would love a chance to see what the original vision was. But at the same time, I don't know how many, maybe this is a topic we'll get to eventually. How many times have the studios stepped in and probably saved a movie because it was all over the freaking place?
Right. And I mean, and unfortunately, sometimes director's cuts do have a tendency to be long and lose the focus of the story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember
you
there
know?
was I think his collaborator passed away, but I think Quentin Tarantino had worked with an editor up
Yes.
through maybe Django,
Yeah.
and that editor was able to, like, quote unquote, I don't know exactly what was said, but let's just say rein in his worst tendencies. And
Mhm.
they were able to basically get a really tight finished product. Now, we're not talking about studio interference here, but a collaborator. And if you consider the studios as collaborators and not
Yeah.
the enemy,
Yeah.
we're not all George Lucas here, then maybe it can be beneficial sometimes. But I'm with Ivor on this one. I would love, because it's David Fincher, I would love to go back and see a director's cut of Alien 3. That'd be sweet.
Solid.
Next up, kind of on the same topic, George from the Cinematic Fanatics chat actually jumped in and said Predator Badlands looks badass. And it kind of does. CP, I went to the movies this week and I saw a trailer for it in 3D, by the way, which was pretty cool too. And one of the interesting things about this film is it's basically like, I don't know, Survivor on an island with like the ultimate predators,
Yeah.
and then you have the predator,
Yeah.
which I could get on board for that. I mean, I'm down for a kaiju movie or a monster movie. I watched Jurassic World. If we're just gonna watch crazy monsters duke it out on an island, I could definitely be in for that.
Okay. All right.
Next up is Mikey, who said, in response to a video that I had posted from TikTok regarding the Batman being the superior film to The Dark Knight, Mikey chimed in and said, my honest opinion would be this. What possible argument could be made that The Batman is a better movie than The Dark Knight in any capacity? Now, do you have any thoughts on that? Because he said any capacity. I mean,
Hmm.
overall, I'm going The Dark Knight. I agree with you here, Mikey. But I mean, is there really nothing that it does better?
No, and that's my thing. I mean, you can make the case, and a lot of people have made the case. For one, tonally, it's much more in line with the the Batman
Yeah, I mean,
stories,
let's face it,
much more
Nolan was going
noir.
for realism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The visual aesthetic is in some ways superior to The Dark Knight. The way that Gotham City is constructed with a unique tone, I think all those things you could argue are better than The Dark Knight. I mean, an argument can be made.
Yeah, I would say in any capacity, probably if I had to pick one thing that really stood out to me was that obviously Nolan is, part of his thesis for The Dark Knight is like, what if Batman sort of existed in a city today?
Yeah.
Now, that city looked a lot like Chicago, but
That it did. That it did.
I mean, not necessarily Gotham City as we think of Gotham from either the comics, BTAS, the Batman Arkham Asylum games. Like Gotham has many, many different iterations, and it often doesn't look like, a modern American city. Now, while I can appreciate exactly what Nolan was going for here, this almost, mixing in our modern fears, back in 2007 about, terrorism and, making the Joker this, anarchy enthusiast. It worked really well for that modern environment. But I could say that, Gotham City and the Batman is maybe a little bit more comic accurate. So
Yeah.
any capacity, Mikey. I'm not picking the Batman over the Dark Knight. You should know this.
Well, I mean, that's just the thing. And I'm like, an argument can definitely be made that it's a superior movie in many aspects.
We can't get into it. We're just doing our shout outs, CP. Maybe that's a topic for another time. Maybe that's a topic we invite Mikey to come on the show and we get two people, one who loves the Batman, one who loves the Dark Knight.
So we
And
invite Mikey on just to tell him, well, he's wrong. I would love that. Mikey, come on the show.
sounds good. Well, next up for our shout outs is none other than Matthew Hellison. And he only had a 2-word response, and he said, Endgame sucked.
Um, I mean, I'm assuming he got hit in the head and has severe, like, brain trauma.
Well, here's the thing, Hellison. And I know Hellison. So when I say this, what I mean is Endgame wasn't made for you. It's made for people who've watched all the movies of the MCU for the previous 10 years leading up to it, and they're huge fans of the MCU because the problem is Endgame itself does not necessarily stand on its own. It's a film that sort of requires prior viewing in order to truly enjoy the payouts that it does. Of which I would argue, Hellison, despite your greatest attempts, I really don't think most of it is fan service. It's a lot of closing arcs. It's a lot of they set things up, you know, 5 years ago and it pays out. That's not fan service. They didn't put it in there just to delight fans. It's like, no, it was set up. And Endgame does this well, but only if you're a freaking fan. And he's not. So Hellison, maybe Endgame did suck. Your subjective view, if we're looking through the Hellison lens, terrible movie, but I just don't think it was made for you.
Now, if the Coen brothers, instead of the Russo brothers, directed Endgame, he would love it.
Yeah, well, we talked about that a little bit with his list last week of like top, No Country for Old Men, his top 5 movies. I know, Ivor, you had some thoughts on that, and we're going to get to those in a separate shout out session. So we know you sent us quite a few messages, and he had some thoughts on that as well. But for today, we are moving on to our final shout outs, which is just a big happy birthday to Leah and Cynthia. Hope you guys had an amazing birthday and happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So, CP, I'm going to throw it over to you. It is now time for our box office breakdown.
All right, let's get into this. I don't know if any of you have been to the theaters recently,
Ooh,
but
ooh, I have.
oh, I know you have. Number five, a little film known as Roof Man.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. I hope that movie's doing well because I mean, I know it's based on a true story and all that, or loosely based on a true story, but I haven't seen it yet, but I love the idea of it. It just looks fun to me.
You just like it that it takes place in a Toys R Us, a place you
It's
spend
true.
plenty
That's
of
true.
time. Plenty of time there.
I mean,
So,
they could
Roofman
have
is,
filmed at the old Toys R Us over here in Puente Hills. It's closed down, but the building's still there.
they could have.
They
Maybe they
could have.
did. We don't
Yeah.
know. So, it's made $20 million worldwide, which seems very low. So, I am curious to know what the budget on it is.
Yeah, 20 is a little low for a modern 2025 theatrical release film.
Because it
I'm a s-
also doesn't give me the vibe that it was made as like a, one of those A24 films that was shot on a low, minimal scale, $3 million all in. Like,
They used an iPhone 16 Pro.
yeah, it seems a little, so that does seem a little concerning,
Yeah, for sure.
but it's definitely on my list to check out. I'm sure you will too. It was number two last week when it premiered, and now it is dropped.
Hmm. I honestly haven't heard a lot of word of mouth personally. I don't know anybody that's seen it, so maybe one of us needs to get in there and check it out because, well, we could spread the word on this podcast.
Yes, that's exactly what we should do. So, number four, D Man's favorite movie of the year, One Battle After Another.
Nice. I keep seeing headlines that this movie is going to lose like $100 million, but I don't even care. It
It's
was
up to
good.
166 million, which I believe, if I remember the numbers when we looked at it before, the production value was about 180 million. So given the P&A costs, yeah, I mean it's as of now not on track to make all its money back, but this was a Paul Thomas Anderson film.
I'm going to
I
go
don't
ahead and gamble here and say that Matt Hellison would love this movie. Like, I don't think he's seen it, but I think he would love it.
probably not. Only if the Coen brothers directed it. Number three, premiering this last weekend, Good Fortune with Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah, I saw that. And is that the Seth Rogen one?
Yep.
And his name is eluding me, but from Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Aziz
And
Ansari.
yep. And
Yeah.
this has
Okay.
only made $8 million in total, which again seems kind of low, but
Can we
you
just
know,
say out loud that the promotion for this movie was pretty low, leading only up until like the week before its release? I
yeah,
think I
I was
saw a trailer once, and then they finally started doing like late night talk shows and all that. But like a week before it dropped, I didn't even know it was coming until like 2 weeks ago.
I agree. I thought that was really weird. I don't know if there was some kind of issue in terms of distribution or post production or whatever. But considering it's Seth Rogen and Keanu Reeves and Aziz Ansari, I would have thought that there would have been a little bit more of a press tour behind it.
Well, and the other thing too is like I'm sure to a certain extent the studio's betting that those guys have followings large enough to bring people out to the theater. That's probably why you would cast all of them. But at the same time, I mean, for a premise that really connects with their brands, it's kind of a weird like concept for a film where like two guys swap bodies and then there's this angel. It's like
Yeah,
a kind of
yeah,
seems kind of high concept. Like it's not an easy like I don't know. I feel like Pineapple Express was just real easy for fans of Seth Rogen to get on board with. You
yeah.
know,
Right. No, for sure, I agree.
even Knocked Up, like it just seemed on brand. Where this seems like obviously Seth Rogen's brand has changed
Yeah,
dramatically. You know, now
yeah.
he's starring in the studio and giving Emmy speeches and different stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It all seems weird. So number two, the movie we're going to be talking about on this week's episode of the podcast, Tron Ares, previously number one. Now, Tron Ares has made $105 million
All right.
worldwide, close to
Cost
about 50
100.
million on both. However, part of the problem is the budget for Tron Ares was a solid 200 plus million dollars. So,
Yeah, it's a big budget blockbuster with, special effects in probably almost every single shot.
yeah, so because of that, this is, a quarter of the way to profitability. So that's probably a concern for Disney. And, that's definitely been in the news this past week.
Well, the bigger concern is that this movie already dropped a spot when this should probably be the top film for like 3 or 4 weeks
Yeah.
in order to recoup that money. So if it's already dropping spots when the competition is not that high, what was number three?
Yeah, right. Good fortune.
Yeah, that might be a problem.
So, number one is a sequel, and that is Black Phone 2, which in its opening weekend has made a solid nearly $50 million. And there's still another week before Halloween, so I don't imagine that's slowing down anytime soon.
Is that the one with, is that Ethan Hawke?
Yeah, that's the one where Ethan Hawke is the serial killer, or
I mean, I'm not gonna
was the
lie.
serial killer in the first one.
They probably dropped that movie at exactly the right time, leading up to Halloween and just people wanting to, get a couple thrills in, take some dates, dinner and a movie,
Yeah.
and, have your date hang on to you. Or in my case, I'd probably hang on to my date. I would be scared, but hang on to my wife. But yeah, well done. I mean, I'm sure that movie was also made probably pretty cheap, so they're gonna make money.
Right? And I think that's exactly why they made it. Released at the right time, solid budget, great follow up to a popular original horror film, and they're going to be building a franchise apparently.
I was gonna say, like, if the second one does well, the old adage goes that you get to make a third one, and really
Yep.
a fourth and a fifth, because the second,
Yep.
now you could be like, oh, well, the first two were really good. The third one sucked, but maybe four will be better. You know,
Yeah.
you got it on lock. So good job, guys.
So that's the box office for this past week.
Nice. All right. Well, as you mentioned, we are talking about Tron Ares, or rather Tron in a larger sense, but specifically Ares because we both had the chance to go see this movie. And I mean, I'll just start with you because I know one of the things about modern day film releases is that, like our podcast, there's a lot of podcasts, a lot of movie podcasts out there, and even for that matter, a lot of movie influencers or just individuals who aren't necessarily having a conversation, but just giving their thoughts that can make or break a big budget movie. And often people do not hold back. We live in a culture now, CP, where I mean, if something's really good, I feel like it's amazing and the best thing ever. And if people think something sucks, then it's, Madam Web. And, coming out of, the first week of Tron Ares release, it felt like a lot of the people that were on their podcasts and doing their videos were overwhelmingly negative, often calling this movie dog shit and questioning why Disney made it in the first place and its overall existence. So I think, at least myself, having watched many of those videos before I even saw Tron, I went into it, with sort of rather low expectations. I know Tron as a franchise, this is the third live action entry, and the other two were not necessarily, heaped praise upon their release. I guess they've gained sort of a cult classic quality, Tron and Tron Legacy, and now we have Tron Ares. So I wanted to throw it over to you first. I know I just kind of talked longer than I thought, but
Wow, yeah, definitely.
what are your initial thoughts here? And do you think the podcasters and influencers were right?
Ooh, initial thoughts here. That's kind of a well. Let me start by saying this. I was really excited to see Tron Ares. If we go back 6 months on this podcast, you and I both kind of said when we saw the initial trailer, we were not impressed. When we saw the follow-up trailer, specifically the one unveiled at Comic-Con, you
Yeah,
and I think we're both all in from that moment. It was definitely on our list to see, and we're like, this looks like this could be really cool, right?
definitely.
We
Yeah.
saw what Disney brought out at the Comic-Con panel, and I was quite impressed, and I was really looking forward to this. Now, when the initial kind of, blast after the movie came out, it seemed like everybody had said the same thing. Weak story, weak characters, looks awesome, and the music's incredible. Which, in like the ultimate deja vu, is exactly what we got when Tron Legacy came out,
Yeah.
12, 13 years ago. The idea was it looks really cool, characters are weak, story's weak, Daft Punk had an epic soundtrack. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, and you think about it too. I mean, it was a sequel that took way too long.
yep,
They replaced Daft Punk this time with Nine Inch Nails. Both of
yep,
them killed it. And it sort of doesn't really carry over the direct story from the sequel that it's borrowing from. It
exactly.
kind of does, like a little bit. Some of the elements are there, but not really. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a odd franchise.
Yeah, it's a franchise lacking direction and vision, I think.
Well,
And
go ahead.
so my thought was I went in expecting this to be like Tron Legacy, which is a movie that I've always enjoyed. I would not say it's a great movie. I would not say it's incredible, but it's fun, you know.
That really is. Yeah.
It's entertaining, it's good to watch, and I did not get Tron Legacy, so I was in fact very disappointed with Tron Ares. And I'll leave that
Okay.
at there to start this conversation.
All right. Well, spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen it. Not that it's a pretty simple plot. So, I'm going to go ahead and describe it for you, which is that in order to sell soldiers and military equipment to the military, a CEO of Dillinger Corp, which is a competitor of Encom, which is the original corporation from Tron and in Tron Legacy, they're basically bringing the digital versions of things from the grid to the real world, with the caveat that they can only last in the real world for 29 minutes. So, what does that mean for the plot? It means that they need the permanence code, which is wow. Okay.
Da-da-da.
Yeah. So, the question for this movie's plot is, do they get the permanence code or not? And that's kind of the overall idea. It's pretty simple.
No, it's
Uh,
freaking stupid.
well, here's the thing. Going along with this idea of the permanence code, that would mean that whatever is brought over from the grid could stay in the real world for apparently eternity or until it is destroyed or killed. If you give,
Yes.
life
Yes.
prescience to AI. But what's fascinating is that if you go back to Tron Legacy, they actually had a plot device from Tron Legacy that would work fantastic for the permanence code. Which, if you go backwards, Cora was considered an ISO or an anomaly within the grid in Tron Legacy and was able to come to the real world and is still alive within the world of Tron Legacy because it is a shared world.
Yes.
So it would seem natural to continue as a direct sequel to Tron Legacy with these CEOs trying to find Cora so that they can extract from her the permanence code. And then that way they can either use this uh, AI generated, 3D generated stuff for good or for the military and nefarious
Yeah.
reasons. But it seems like you're going to want to find Cora. And that's just not what happens.
Yeah.
Like, I think that sucks because, well, it's almost like why even acknowledge it at all then? They should have just
It's
rebooted Tron.
such a weak sequel to Tron Legacy. That's really what it is. They reference Sam, they reference Cora only through the most vague of terms. It is not in any way directly related to the events of Tron Legacy, and it's very loosely related to the events of the original Tron film. So that was one of my problems.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was something that, and speaking of Tron, I mean, where's that guy?
Yeah. Tron's not even in the Tron film.
Yeah, I mean, in a weird way, I almost think Disney, just on brand recognition, is place slotting the word Tron
For the
to
grid.
reference, yeah, the grid. I mean, I don't think they want to call the movie the grid, so they're just like Tron.
Yeah.
And I mean, kind of, I guess everybody's kind of like, oh man, they go into the world of Tron, and you're like, well, Tron's actually a character
Yeah.
who's not in it, which
Yeah.
is crazy too, because I mean, he's sort of a defense system for particularly the NCOM grid. And it would still make sense that he might make an appearance because there's a really cool action sequence where they like hack into the NCOM grid. I mean, Tron could have showed up.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. Does he
considering they
age?
visit three separate grids in this movie, which is essentially one is the original grid from the Tron films in the same style. One is the more modern Tron grid that we see in Tron Legacy, and then the new red Ares Tron grid from
This
this
one,
film.
the Dillinger grid or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
So, I mean, to me, I look at it and I think to myself, so they decide plot wise that why why do digital creations only last 29 minutes, right? Um there's another moment where one of the characters, Eve, they need the permanence code and it's stored in her disk. And so they're like, oh, take her disk and then retrieve the code, but it'll kill her. I hate sort of plot contrivances like that, CP,
yeah. I know what you mean.
where it's like, why 29 minutes? Why can they only last 29 minutes? You're like, probably because it works best for the story they're trying to tell. Why
Yeah,
not 7 days? Why not 5 hours? Why not a year?
yep,
Uh, they don't explain it within the context of the world we're in. And so it essentially just sort of becomes like, same thing. The character of Eve, if they take the information off her disk, why does she die? I think just to ratchet up the stakes, but I mean, for no real reason. Like what? You can't retrieve information from people's disks? That's
yeah.
nuts.
No, I mean it's inconsistent and it feels like lazy writing, which again is probably the complaint of the writing is flat, you know.
Well, and you can always tell, like, sort of when writing goes that way, because if you were to be like, well, if you just wrote it differently, you could make it make sense. You're like, then it just comes across as lazy because it's like they just didn't take the time to, explain why I mean, there could be a good reason why it's 29 minutes. I don't know.
Hmm.
But it seems like it just serves the plot the best.
Yeah,
So, what's interesting about that then is you can imagine that all of the AI and artifacts that are sort of 3D printed and brought over to the real world from the grid only last for 29 minutes, but the AI existence respawns back in the grid and then they can be brought back an infinite number of times. So
yeah,
they have essentially like 30-minute windows of which they can return. Generally, I'm assuming wherever you have 3D printers. In this case, it's just one place, but could be anywhere.
hmm,
And yeah, so then it's like you sort of have like this uh like live forever AI that can
yeah,
just continually return to the real world, but only for a limited amount of time.
yeah,
So we see that happen a bunch. And I don't know, it's like one of those things where to me, it reminds me a little bit of like time travel in movies.
What do you mean?
It's like,
Like it's not fully flushed out enough. It's just like they're like, cool, we have this laser that can 3D print matter, and
yeah,
there we go. Like we just
and
need an
I,
excuse to get people from the grid out here. We're not going to explain it and make it
right.
clear.
So what I'm kind of saying is like, yes, these plot contrivances exist, and yes, maybe this is somewhat lazy writing, but if you're just willing to sort of suspend disbelief and be like, well, that's how it is, it can be quite fun.
Okay.
So I don't want to hate on it too hard because I'm like, sometimes it's like for the sake of the fun concept of this movie, we're gonna assume time travel works. And even though if you think about it too hard, you're just gonna get a
It all
headache.
breaks
And
apart, and you're like,
yeah, it
yeah,
all
none of
breaks
this makes
apart.
sense. Yeah,
So
for
like
sure.
for the sake of not just saying, oh my gosh, everything that doesn't have an explanation is trash, then I mean, it kind of works because I thought the action set pieces here, whether it was Tron's training sessions where he continually gets defeated and then respawns and continually goes until he becomes sort of like a perfect AI. There's a cyber hack at the beginning of the movie, which I thought visually looked really cool. Now, I don't know about you, CP. I went and saw this in IMAX 3D, which I would recommend.
I
Uh,
didn't. I saw it in regular basic movie theater.
I thought IMAX 3D really enhanced it. So,
Okay. Okay.
particularly that cyber, that's on the grid, that's in the NCOM grid, which I thought that was pretty cool. It looked visually stunning on the screen. There's a light cycle chase that ends up happening within the real world in.
Which was cool. I like that. That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was actually really cool. I mean, light cycles being sort of like, in Star Wars, like if you don't have like spaceship battles or something, you're like, where's that at?
Yeah.
You kind of expect to see some light cycles. Um, they had a couple cool fight scenes, and then it was really neat to see one of the ships sort of fly through the city. I thought that looked really cool and intimidating. So visually, I found that to be stunning. And I thought the
Yeah.
score, like you said, is really good. Um, so I actually enjoyed the movie. And then getting back to something that I thought worked within the context of the film, even if it's not done very well, is I think the theme of this permanence or permanence code works well. So, as we mentioned, there's two CEOs vying for this permanence code, and thus uh, the riches and well, in on one side, kind of have like a good CEO and a bad CEO, and on the good CEO side, they want to use this permanence code to provide the world with abundance, right? Altruistic, maybe, but I guess sure. Motivations are pure. But the idea being that this CEO at one point had lost her sister and is trying to continue her work, and this idea of sort of abundance or permanence or non-permanence. Sorry, I said abundance. Uh, Permanence or non-permanence um, is interesting because, like I said, these AIs sort of live forever. They just continually respawn, but they never die, right? They can always be respawned. And one of the cruxes of the plot of the film is that the character of Ares ends up, having a moment and decides that, you know what, I want to go to the real world, but like for good. And I'm done taking directives from the master computer or whatever. And I don't know, that theme kind of works.
Oh boy. Okay. So there's a lot there, D-Man, that I feel I need to comment on. First and foremost, excuse me. First and foremost, the major failure of the movie, in my opinion, is the fact that we are going to see a Tron movie to see awesome things happening on the grid. And
Mm.
most of the movie takes place in real life, not on the grid. That's the equivalent in my mind of us watching Harry Potter movies where Harry Potter goes to Hogwarts, and then we watch a Harry Potter movie where Harry Potter tries to get money out of his ATM in Muggle World.
Yeah.
I don't care. I want to see the magic. And in this case, I want to see the awesomeness that's the grid as opposed to the limited sections of time we spend on the grid in the film. That was what I think the biggest failure was.
Okay.
Thematically, you brought that up, and I thought that that was really an interesting point. My problem is I don't know that it's flushed out to the extent that it should be.
It's not, but I
It,
do. So it's like to me, I think it actually works. I don't think the film is broken in that way.
thematically, yes, it works from the 30,000 feet level, but I think it really falls short on the ground level of the film. The
Okay.
main point I'm thinking of is when we think about the character Ares, played by Jared Leto, he has this kind of existential crisis when he experiences rain for the first time, right?
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
understands rain from a scientific position as a
Right.
digital creation, but he's never experienced it in the physical realm. But the problem is, the writers don't give him the opportunity to physically experience rain. He essentially stands in a barn and looks at it raining outside. He doesn't think, oh my gosh, this is rain. Like I should go walk outside and feel it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
things like I think that would have been meaningful in showing this evolution as opposed to him kind of just waking up one day, having this existential crisis and saying, you know what? I want to be real. I want to be a real boy forever and I don't want to die.
I think there is a Pinocchio reference.
Yeah, and my problem is it just feels unearned. He goes from being this perfect digital, what do they call him? The master,
Commander or something.
yeah,
I don't know.
within the digital ecosystem to saying, you know what, I want to leave all this behind and I want permanence. I don't want to die. Now, a movie that does that very well is Blade Runner,
Yeah.
right? The existence of a machine and its longing to essentially, as it's played out in the film, not be forgotten, I think has much more urgency and is a much more interesting story perspective than we're getting in Tron Ares, where he's kind of just like, you know what, screw it, I want to live here permanently.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole Roy Batty monologue where he sort of cries in the rain and he's like, just like my tears, do we just disappear? But obviously it's a monologue about existence. But also, I think in Blade Runner 2049, there's a great scene where Ana de Armas, she's sort of this virtual AI
Yep.
that doesn't really exist. And it's also very interesting because they use rain again, where I think she ends up on either a balcony or a roof with Ryan Gosling's character. And like rain is like coming through her because she's just a projection.
Yeah.
But she's almost experiencing wondering what it would be like to experience rain.
Yeah. Yes.
And so there's still this idea that she can experience wonder. It's just she can't experience rain. And so it's like, I don't know, there was like all these fun dynamics um that really, they just didn't take the time here. They just kind of went face value, like Tron experience, or not Tron, Ares had an experience. Thus now he wants to be a real boy.
Yeah. And I mean, and again, when Ares kind of gets this attachment to Eve's character, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he essentially decides that he's going to disregard the commands that he's given and he's not going to kill her. Instead, he's going to save her. He's going to help her, survive the attacks from the Dillinger soldiers. Cool. But the
Right.
problem is we never find this, it's never a truly earned experience in terms of why he kind of becomes fascinated and curious about this woman and why he wants to help her survive. Instead he just sort of is like, hey, like, cool, yeah, I'll help you live. um it,
Yeah.
it really bothered me. I mean, there were plenty of opportunities to allow him to develop almost a human like sense of wonder or dream or something to show us that he's not like all the other digital creations who are just there to follow orders, who to take a command and execute. Instead, he's robbed of that kind of evolution of the character that we needed, I think, to truly be invested in his journey and his quest to become real
Yeah,
or
and
permanent.
right. And then there's also like, that's what would like kind of separate Ares from someone like the Terminator, who, right at the end of Terminator 2, when speaking to John, he's like, I know now why you cry, but
Yeah.
it's something I can never do. Right.
Yes.
He takes the second to acknowledge not only um, can he not experience those emotions, but he's literally describing his own autonomy. He's like, I will never be human.
Yes.
And in this case, I think it's interesting because the movie sort of takes this case that most of the time AI ends up as Skynet, it's because its original directives and guardrails were made by humans, which is kind of interesting because they have this interview with Eve, who's the other CEO, the good CEO, where she sort of explains that, like, it's very possible that if we just left AI to its own ends and really didn't like direct it, it might be benevolent or even good. Most of the time it goes bad is because of people, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of a weird take. I don't know that people dive that deep into it with this movie because it's like never touched on again. But when speaking to that theme of permanence or non-permanence, Ares actually does get the opportunity to sort of become permanent. He gets the permanence code, but then becomes non-permanent because if he dies now in the real world, he dies forever,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is cool because you sort of have life. He can no longer respawn for eternity or live out his eternity in the grid or whatever. Um, and so I don't know, like I think it all sort of does it does tie together.
That's something that really bothered me about this film too. Again, this is a movie coming out during the height of the evolution of AI, right?
Yeah,
What an awesome opportunity to take a position regarding AI, to take a stance, to say something new. I mean, especially in this world of digital versus real. I mean, there's this whole debate going on right now about digital actors versus real actors. Like,
it's a good
what an
point.
opportunity to add something meaningful to the global conversation that we're having about AI. And I don't think this movie did anything bold or interesting in any way on that subject matter.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it definitely sort of asks a question. I think we talked about this when we talked about the Fantastic Four, where it's like they set up this conundrum of like, do you sacrifice a baby to like save everyone else's life?
Yes.
And like they kind of arrive at a good answer where they're like, no, but like together we'll fight this, or we'll go down trying. But like in a weird way, they kind of set up that dilemma, but then never really challenge it. And that's kind of, I feel like what we get here in Tron Ares, where they sort of set up this idea of AI and is it benevolent or is it malicious? But they never really like pick or like give us an actual plot scenario where like things sort of play out that way. And then you explore it.
So in the original Tron, there's this line of dialogue that I totally love that I find very pertinent today, where the characters are talking and it's about, oh, do machines think or not? And one of the characters kind of throws out this hypothetical. He's like, oh, like imagine someday in the future when machines think and human beings don't. And I'm like, that was like 40 years ago looking at this moment today where we
Yeah.
just type into ChatGPT and no one thinks for themselves and doesn't bother crafting an email. Instead, they just let the machine do the thinking. And then I think when we look at Tron Legacy, I actually thought Tron Legacy had this incredible look at at regarding AI, right?
Hmm.
There's this constant theme that they bring up in the film about perfection
Yeah.
versus imperfection.
Yeah.
And Clue is obsessed with creating the perfect system, and Flynn Warren, is very afraid because he's like, hey, what's more imperfect than our world? And they have this conversation at the end where he says, hey, the thing about perfection is it's unknowable. And this whole story between Flynn and Sam and Cora and Clue is really the fact that she is this miraculous, imperfect accident. And that's what makes her so human like. Whereas Clue is seeking perfection, he is the perfect AI creation. But because he is so insistent on finding perfection, he'll never be able to do the experience the brokenness of the human soul, right? He'll never be able to say, "Hey, I have heartbreak, and I am going to write a beautiful song about it," right? I'm never
Hmm.
going to be able to take my imperfect pain and create art. And through that juxtaposition, I think it's a really interesting look at like what's truly real and what's not real. And at what point would something artificial
Yeah.
develop the human like qualities that we would need to refer to them as truly real? And this movie doesn't have any higher level conversation like that. It's very much like, oh,
Well, I mean,
AI could
to
be
your
good,
point,
could be bad.
about like writing a song, like AI can write a song about heartbreak, but does it really know about heartbreak?
Yeah,
it's
Right.
never had its heart broken. I mean, it is just using an amalgamation of all this data of people that have expressed, through many different mediums what heartbreak is like. But it's like, it doesn't know. It's not
Yeah.
human. It can't know.
Yep.
There's this sense, I think, that, when you're talking about the human experience, right?
Yeah.
What's really unique is like, I'll never know what it's like to carry a child inside of me and give birth. I will never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like right now, at least as of now, like I don't have any children. So I'll never know what it's like if someone, if your child passes away.
Yeah.
I can empathize, sympathize, I can say, "Oh man, I kind of think I know, but you just don't know." And that's
Yeah.
kind of like AI. It's like it can say it knows, but it doesn't know.
Yeah. I agree.
So, but anyway, I mean, that whole theme of, permanence or impermanence, I think is actually summed up better by a different movie, which is Avengers Age of Ultron. When Vision's talking to Ultron and he's sort of like, yes, but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's like the theme here. And I think it has the pieces
It's like, but they
to,
didn't stick the landing.
and they also don't have a quote like that.
Yeah. True.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously, they can't take that quote because it's already been done. But like, the idea being that it's like, I just don't think they executed it well, but like, it is there. So this,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I understand. I mean, if while we're talking about execution here, I think one of the most heinous crimes in the film, in my mind, is the introduction of the main character.
Okay.
Right. Um, Instead of taking the time for us to actually get to know her, we are stuck with a montage of a bunch of news recordings
Yeah.
where we're told who she is, that she's this brilliant CEO who's obsessed with Flynn's work. She's taken over. Her sister's dying or died of leukemia or whatever.
Yeah.
And now she's on the edge of this massive breakthrough. Yet that is literally all that the filmmakers give us to then be 100% invested and connected to this character. And I think that's such a disservice because I remember watching the movie and I'm like, I do not care about this woman in any way.
Well, I think what you're getting at too is like they're showing us these news clips and sort of headlines of her life, and they're really just being delivered to us at face value. Now, when things are delivered at face value, you're telling, not showing,
Yep.
right? You're just telling me she's smart, but I've never seen her be smart. You
Yep.
know, you're telling me that she cares about this, or this, but I've never
Yep.
seen it.
Yeah.
And I think these newsreels, we've seen it. This isn't a new trick that Tron Ares is pulling off. You see this in Fantastic Four.
Yep. Saw it
They
earlier
have
this
a
year.
newsreel sort of introducing how they became the Fantastic Four and their different adventures leading up to this point.
Yep.
Um, even to an extent, you think about like the prologue from Lord of the Rings that's providing the backstory, or the crawl in Star Wars. Got to get our Star Wars
Yep.
references in. But I think one of the things that they do really well in these other instances is like, particularly Star Wars. It's like, oh, the evil empire, it sort of gives you a context of where we are indexed in the story. But then they have that opening shot where the Star Destroyer comes in, you know, over the camera, and they're really that big and imposing and powerful. And you're like, oh damn, that ship will never beat this ship.
Yeah.
Like it is like they show us that, or in pre-production, you mentioned they technically do this at the beginning of Iron Man 1,
Yeah. True.
where Tony Stark's supposed to be receiving an award, and at the award ceremony they kind of run, it's not a news reel, but it's like a highlight reel of his life. And I think one of the things that really separates the success and why it works in Iron Man but doesn't work so well here is because here it is at face value. They're just telling us, not showing us. So they tell us all these things about Tony in that highlight reel. But then when we meet Tony, he's not like that at all. Sure, he
Hmm.
is a boy genius, but he really doesn't care all that much. He doesn't even show up to accept the award when it seems like he should be honored by the prestige, but he doesn't care. He's very nonchalant when they go to do the thing in the desert. He's kind
Yeah.
of like, to peace, like, I don't
Yeah.
care. So he like plays against the highlight reel, which in that case, I think they're showing us, not telling us now, because you have to watch to get to really know the guy. But it's also intriguing because he's going against what we preconceived know about him.
Yeah.
So that keeps things exciting because
Like,
now we're like, they make it, I think they have that line in the highlight reel where like his father passes away and they're like the passing of a titan.
yeah.
And they make it seem like, Tony would, have to step into his father's shadow. And like that's kind of what happens, but like his relationship with his dad is not good.
It's super fractured. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and they don't allude to the fact that his dad was murdered, which you
Hmm.
find out like there's so much more built on top of it that really allows it to flourish. Where here it just feels like they're just like, here's this character and she's sad.
True.
So I don't know. I mean, that's true as well. I
Well,
mean,
so we're watching this movie. We're not invested in this main character. There's a bunch of supporting characters around her who I'm not gonna lie, I don't even remember their names.
that's
They're
true too.
they're
I don't
they're
either.
the worst form of archetypes out there. For Jared Leto's character Ares, while we see a little bit about him in terms of when he's born digitally and trained, most of his discovery of things happens digitally, so it's super fast. So we don't actually get to see him
Yeah.
getting information and changing in response to it and learning things through himself. He just sort of is like, oh, now I know everything about this. Now I know everything about this. And I don't, his kind of lack of sort of self discovery makes him much more flat, which is okay. I mean, he's a AI character, so I'm
Yeah,
not looking for tons and tons of depth, but
they do introduce a couple other things in addition to the rain, which is um he likes Depeche Mode and the 80s, but
well,
doesn't
everybody likes the
know
80s
why.
and Depeche Mode.
I
No
know, but
one
he
knows
does.
why.
And then he also likes a quote from the book Frankenstein. So they do have a couple instances. So I would argue it doesn't totally just dismiss that concept. It just, again, they don't really convey any sort of emotional connection or real, moment of thought as the viewer. They just sort of give us that at face value. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
he saw this quote by Frankenstein when he was doing research on Eve. So now he's like, oh, that's nice. That makes me think I can do shit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Or he's like, I like Depeche Mode. And I like the quote that he has where he sort of says, he gets asked like why he likes Depeche Mode. And he's like, I don't know. It's just a feeling. I like that. I think it fits into what they're going for here. But yeah, it's just, I don't think they give it enough time to truly connect and flourish the way it should. But I also want to comment really quick on two other things that you just mentioned. So, one, the side characters. I want to clarify that when we're talking about side characters, we're not talking about who gets top billing and who's underneath them. We're talking about like these characters, are assistants or I don't know, just maybe a soldier or something, but they don't come across as memorable. And you don't have to go straight to comedy or do anything ridiculous to get there. You can look at a classic like Star Wars. Side characters are C3PO and R2D2. While they do at points within the
Yeah.
story push the narrative forward, right? Like R2 leaving Luke's farm to go find Obi-Wan. Like he does do things within the context of the story to push it forward. They're also often sidekicks, right?
Yeah.
They're along for the adventure, and 3PO has his commentary and his anxiety. Shut him up or shut him down.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
all these elements are there and they're very memorable, or even Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Within the context of the original trilogy, whatever Chewie's up to is usually whatever Han's up to. But he's a memorable character.
Yeah.
obviously he's memorable looking, but even the way that he talks, that he does things, we love Chewie. So it's like they didn't add that dimension to these side characters. And a couple things you can do is one, they can provide comedic relief, which I think they tried to do a little bit here.
But it wasn't funny enough to be, but the main character, her assistant,
Yeah,
partner, whatever, he wasn't funny enough to be comedic,
memorable.
and
Yeah.
he wasn't bizarre enough to be funny. So I don't really. It just kind of fell flat, and he's just the dude like Alan or whatever his name was.
Yeah, like, and then you can give side characters quotable lines.
Yep.
Often, I don't want to call them catchphrases, but they can be repeated, and then they sort of become embedded in our brains, and they're memorable. Like, depending on whether it's awesome, because I think one of the things you can do with a memorable line is you say it in multiple contexts,
Yeah.
and so when it finally arrives, hasta la vista, baby. It's not the first time it's said,
Yeah.
but now it's said and it's badass as hell. So it's like you can do that with the obviously that's not a side character, but the point is like you can do that.
No, like I think about Ray from Jurassic Park, right?
Mhm.
He's chain smoking the whole movie. He's got his hold on to your butts line. And like
We
that's
remember it.
awesome. And we remember it. And we remember the hacker guy who dies, his name is Ray. Why? Because he made an impact on us.
Yeah. So I don't know. To me, I think that's really big. And then I also wanted to comment. I know Jared Leto's getting a ton of hate as giving a wooden performance and really doing a terrible job as Ares, but I didn't think he did a bad job.
I'm with you. I don't think the problem was actually Jared Leto's performance. I thought he's a digital program soldier. My
And he's
problem's
learning
not
as he
that.
goes.
My problem was that from a writing perspective, we didn't get enough of him interacting with the real world and that causing him to evolve, him learning from these experiences, right? Like as you said, he's attached to Frankenstein. He sees digitally some reference to Eve reading the book when he's reading her file in 30 seconds. I would have much rather him in real life found a copy of Frankenstein the book and flip through the pages physically between his fingers when he sees that line. Like something like that. So we're seeing, oh, these moments of his growth as a character. The
Yeah.
character is doesn't experience anything from my perspective, warranting this evolution that
Right.
happens in the film.
No, I get it. And I don't know. I mean, if you had to rank this movie, I mean, what would you give it out of
Oh,
10?
okay, okay, hold up. We also got to talk about evil CEO, who is
Oh
literally
yeah.
stereotypical evil CEO. And he says that his whole goal is to make $1 trillion. He
Yeah,
doesn't
selling
care about the
military
consequences.
contracts.
He wants to
Yeah.
make $1 trillion. I'm like, this isn't even like, we had the same conversation last week with the Prodigy guy. It's like he's just an evil tech bro to be an evil tech bro.
Well, and the problem here too is as the villain, at least Dillinger, who's the bad CEO, he's not intimidating or menacing. He's kind of cartoonish, almost
Yeah.
like from an 80s cartoon, which can work. I mean, there's
Yeah,
nothing,
yeah, yeah.
it just kind of undermines a little bit some of the overall aesthetic of like taking this movie seriously. There's also the character of Athena, who essentially sort of takes directive once Ares decides to
Go
ignore his
AWOL.
directives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then she sort of becomes like a Terminator. She's basically sent, to get the permanence code from Eve and destroy Ares. So I thought she, as a character, I remember her name, and she was actually interesting,
Yeah.
like in terms of being menacing and memorable. I thought the performance was pretty good. Like, if anything, she felt like the scariest villain within the context of the film.
Agreed. Definitely more so than Dillinger.
Yeah, because he was just so cartoony. He was almost like a tech bro.
Well, and even to the point that, there's this moment at the end of the film where his creation, Athena, kills his mother. Yet
Yeah.
instead of it having any consequences on him and forcing him to change or reconsider, he just kind of goes about his evil tech bro ways. And I was like, so we're not even gonna pretend like he could change or evolve or nothing.
Well, did you see the post-credit scene?
Yes, where he ends up in the Tron
Y-
world.
Yeah, he ends up back on the grid and he essentially takes a disc, which I believe was from the original Tron,
I believe so
and
too.
sort of gains a villainous armor, which there's a lot here to suggest that they would probably love to do a sequel, but the box office will probably dictate that. Uh, what did you what did you think of the nostalgic nods or additions to the original Tron and even Tron Legacy, so of which there's two. One is in order to get the permanence code, Ares has to go to, I think it's a replica, but of the original grid from Tron 1,
Yes.
right? And they're kind of pulling some nostalgic threads here because
It looks
it,
exactly like the
yeah,
80s movie Tron grid.
but they
Yeah.
do it well. They do it
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I thought it actually worked. And then this is where he gets an opportunity to meet Flynn, or
Yep.
in this case, a ghost or echo of Flynn, because in Legacy he passed away. And
Yeah.
then finally, at the very end of the movie, once Tron has gained permanence, he flashes a photo of Sam and Cora from Legacy, acknowledging within the actual context of the story, not the newsreel thing at the beginning of the movie, that they're aware of these characters' existence, and it kind of seems like the next movie would be Ares seeking them out.
Yeah. And he also drives the original, a replica of the original Ducati bike from the
Yeah.
original Tron, and that's brought up again in Tron Legacy.
So I don't know. I mean, what were your thoughts on the sort of nostalgic bits? Because I mean, these are really the only nods we get to the rest of the franchise, with almost everything else other than people's names being, or the corporation names, sort of not really being connected.
I guess we do have the moment where Eve is spit out of the grid onto the original Ares arcade or the original Flynn arcade. I
Oh,
guess
that's
that's the
right.
other one. But again, it feels kind of weak and it feels like they're like, hey, everyone, this is still part of Tron. Um, None of those things actually needed to be in this movie in any way for it to continue. I think it was just an attempt to connect it back to, you know, the existing world and let us
Yeah,
know that it's in fact a Tron sequel, not a, entirely new Tron film.
I didn't mind them going back to the original grid. I thought that worked really well. Um, because like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, there's so many different grids that apparently you can go to.
Yeah.
And that was cool. I liked bringing Flynn in. He still had the same, dude vibe
Yeah.
that he's always had. That's that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I thought his interaction with Ares worked to me. I mean, I think he gave up the permanence code too easy because I don't know. I feel like you could have an imposter that looks like Ares, or for that matter, he doesn't know who Ares is, really anyone
Yeah.
other than
Right.
the villain.
Right.
So it seemed a little odd that he would just give up the code that easily, but I did like the interaction because it sort of acknowledges the old 80s vibe. They're in the old grid and he's basically asking Ares about how, he feels about his own existence. And like we said earlier, I mean, I think that's a theme of the movie. And by Ares sort of, evolving from the beginning of the movie as simply taking directives to now having feelings and wondering about different things, does Flynn agree to give up the code because he's like, okay, I do trust that, this program isn't nefarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it sort of fits in with the movie. Like we said, they don't take like a positive or negative stand on AI overall. It sort of has like, two sides of the same coin. But in this case, it's like, hey, maybe AI can be used for good.
Hmm.
So I don't know. And then I think it bothers me more with the Korra reference because I feel like seeking her out for the permanence code as an ISO that literally was an anomaly built out of the second grid and has come to the real world and been here for all of her existence in the real world. She never went away.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, that kind of bothers me because like that would be like the crux tying this exact story back to the previous movie, and they just didn't do it.
Yeah, I was reading something about that. Apparently, a sequel to Legacy was originally developed with the original cast signing on and Joseph Krasinski coming back to direct, which would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was in development when Disney released the abomination that was the Tomorrowland movie. So after
No.
that bomb, they're like, well, maybe Tron is going to be a bomb too. But the difference is, I mean, the original Tron movie, let me just pull it up just to reference, or not the original Tron Legacy movie was made for $170 million, which is about 40 to $50 million less than this current one.
Yeah.
And it made upwards of, you know, about $410 million. So it wasn't this smashing box office success, but it was a profitable film. And if they had dropped it within 3 years, 4 years of the, Tron Legacy, like I think you would have actually had the sequel building potential. I mean, this goes into a bigger problem of sequels, which is, it's 20 years between the first two films, 15 years between the second and third film. On top of it, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Jared Leto is not a box office draw.
Yeah. I mean, and that ebbs and wanes. There was one time where Will Smith was everything he opened was a smashing success. I know obviously like the Oscar slap doesn't help, but even before then, he was sort of already on that downward. You
Mhm.
think or The Rock now. We talked about the smashing machine and it wasn't even in the top 5, at in the box office review today.
Yeah, yeah.
So like at one time, The Rock I mean, you could put him in almost anything and people would go see it. And it's like, that only lasts for a certain amount of time. And I don't know if Jared Leto ever even had it.
No, I
You
mean,
know,
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I know he's, been had some pretty notable performances as an actor.
Morbius was not great. He's not loved in the original Suicide Squad as the Joker.
Yeah.
I know he won his Oscar for what was it, Dallas Buyers Club?
Yeah, and obviously he's well known for his role and his performance in Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah. And then you have 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah,
I mean, so the guy's had success. And didn't he at one point like climb the Empire State Building or some shit?
I have no idea. I'm not a big Jared Leto fan, so I'll let you look that up and
I
confirm that.
our
Because
listeners can look that up. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he was never, necessary. He wasn't ever like a box office draw. Like I said, I don't know if he really brings this movie down, but I don't know if his, you know, celebrity status is enough to just get people to come out because he's in it.
I would agree, and that's kind of what I think one of the problems is, unfortunately, right?
Yeah. And I don't know, Tron suffers a little bit from that overall, like you were saying, like legacy sequels, where like why are some of them good and some of them are not good?
I mean,
Like, why is Top Gun Maverick incredible? And it is a legacy sequel. I mean, there's a lot that it ties to the
yeah, yeah,
original and
yeah.
it borrows a lot from the original. So it's not like it's just this wholly separate movie with the character of Maverick. They have the beach volleyball scene.
Mhm.
They have a bunch of callbacks. He goes to see Iceman and like
Yeah,
all this
yeah.
different stuff. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what makes some work and some
Well,
not
I mean, I think it
work.
comes down to two things, right? One, are you being respectful and acknowledging the journey that the audience has been on with you up to this point, right?
Okay.
I think that's important. But two, do you have something new to add to the conversation?
Yeah, that's probably the most important.
Like when you take Top Gun and you're like, hey, now let's look at, what it's like to be a fighter pilot and take this guy who's known as being a rogue maverick, right? And put it in a position where we're dealing with the influence of digital drones, you know?
Yeah.
And we put him in a role where now he has to mentor young pilots and show them control and responsibility. I'm like, okay, that is interesting. That's the evolution of the Maverick character. That's where he would be now. Let's
Yeah.
check that out and explore it.
Because I guess the way I would describe it is most legacy sequels, it kind of feels like let's just get the band back together and play our greatest hits, but they don't have any new songs. They don't, in fact, they're not as good as you remember them. It's just nostalgia, right? You're
Yeah.
like, the Rolling Stones are old now. I mean, I bet it was incredible at one time to go
Yeah.
see them
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And not that you wouldn't have fun if you went today, you would, but it's like there's no new album. There's no new
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
songs being added. And I think that's what you're getting at is like legacy sequels can be fun, just like going to the concert to see your favorite band from the 80s play their hits one last time. It can be fun. And sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's just a cash grab. They're just making money. But if you're
Hmm.
willing to add new things and push the conversation forward, like you said, while respecting the journey, because it's a legacy sequel, so there's been time,
Yeah.
I think it can work. I think that's kind of a good point. And that,
So,
that is a little bit where Ares does fail, is that in some ways it absolutely respects the journey, but in other ways it rejects the journey.
hmm
You
and it
know,
doesn't really seem to push forward on the story front in the ways that it should, or with the opportunities that it could.
but damn it, if it wasn't like so much fun to see it on IMAX and in 3D, like
I
I
don't know.
really,
I didn't go to the IMAX.
I actually really enjoyed it, which is nuts.
Really?
Yeah, like I mean,
Like that, and I imagine that light cycle chase scene
oh yeah,
was
all the
probably
action
incredible.
and like I mentioned, um, I thought a lot of stuff was there. It just wasn't executed well. So kind of leave it at that then.
So I'm
Um,
gonna then throw back the question you threw to me before we got sidetracked. So what would you give it? What rating?
well, okay. I said I just enjoyed it. And if we're talking against like, sort of your modern contemporary films, right? If Oppenheimer and Top Gun Maverick and Dune Part 2 are tens, um, I'm not gonna give it a seven because I think that's like copping out.
Okay.
I would probably say if I'm just being objective, a six. Like that's probably where I would put it. Like I enjoyed it as a fun visual spectacle, almost, I know we're in October, but it's like, summer blockbuster territory. And I think it does have a lot of the pieces. So I would say that. But if I'm rating it how much I actually just enjoyed going to the theater and like the visual spectacle of it, I'd probably give it closer to an eight
Oh wow.
because I really had fun.
That's
Yeah.
incredibly generous, D man. I'd
But
give it a
yeah,
4.
if I'm being objective, I mean, it's probably a six.
So the
But
real question is this. If this was 15 years ago, would you have bought this on DVD?
I would. I'll
Okay.
probably I'll
Okay.
probably watch it again. Steph wasn't with me. I had to go by myself because we were talking about on this podcast episode. So I'll probably see it again in theaters and I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, how would you buy it on DVD? I'm guessing
Absolutely not.
you're not buying fours.
And I
Yeah.
own Tron Legacy on Blu-ray.
All right. So if you had to rank the Tron movies, because we've both seen them all, even if we didn't watch them all in the last week, I mean, how would you rank them?
Go Legacy first, then I'd go original Tron, then I'd go Tron Ares. The problem is original Tron feels so dated at this point in time.
Yeah.
Like I
I
remember
mean, as
watching it as a kid.
revolutionary as it was, yeah.
Yeah, but now it feels so dated that like watching it now, I'm kind of like, it really is hard to like watch
I
as a
know.
movie.
I might go as far as to say I would put Tron at three, Tron Legacy at two, and maybe Tron Ares.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
I mean, as of having just gone to see it, within the last 24 hours, I thought it was a fun ride.
Okay.
I mean, it's a Disney movie and it kind of reminds me of like a theme park ride. Like if you can just accept that like some of this stuff happens without worrying too much about how some of the logistics work within the world. You're like, I thought it was pretty fun.
Nice. Okay. All right.
But give me a rewatch of Legacy and maybe I might change my ranking there. So I don't know. Maybe I should watch the Tron trilogy. That'd be fun.
Yeah, go watch it. Go watch it before we do this podcast. Oh wait, never mind. Okay, my
Sorry,
bad.
guys. All right. Well, CP, that actually does it for our episode this week. So, to all of our listeners, wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, if you haven't seen Tron already, you're going to go check it out. I thought it was good. I thought it was good enough that, I mean, what did we say earlier? If you can get a first two, even if the third one bombs, maybe you can get a fourth one. I mean, I would like
Yeah,
to see
right.
Tron continue. Um, and obviously they left the door open in some of the areas for different characters to either return or continue on from this story. So if they could do it right, and
Hmm.
I'm going to point to the X-Men franchise, CP. They ended up with X-Men Last Stand, but give it a couple movies and they did First Class and Days of Future Past. I mean,
That's
come on.
true. That's true. They had a couple terrible movies, but they still managed to come up with a few
They
amazing
ended up with
ones.
Logan later. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to give Tron at least another movie to see if they could tie it all together and maybe learn from some of the mistakes made here. But listeners, keep the conversation going. Let us know what your thoughts are, and send us any shout outs or comments on Instagram, which you can follow the show at filmmakerscompass.com, where we have a feed of all of our past episodes, as well as links to our Instagram account at FilmCompPod or at FilmCompPodcast. You could follow me at Big Kid D-Man and CP.
Thank you for hanging out and talking Tron with us. We had a great time. We will see you back here next week. And until then, keep watching movies.